give me an example. What kind of things do your clients ask you for? Give me what.
It's really everything. It could be to analyze legislation.
Okay.
It could be to craft a contract. It could be strategic thinking in their business. It could be an introduction to someone. So the sky's the limit. It could be, hey, the CEO's son wants to go to X, Y, and Z school. Who do you know there? Or the CEO is trying to sell their house here and, there's a problem because of the city or the county. I mean, it really runs the gamut. So there is no typical request. There is no typical day. We do a lot of startup work for people, and so that's particularly interesting and satisfying because you could, for example, set up a new company from start to finish, and you have a chance to mold that company, not necessarily in your image, but in the image of the people that have hired you to do that. And so when you do that, and I think about some of the companies that we've started over the course of time, especially in the insurance arena, and you see some of these companies now, they're $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion revenue companies with 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 employees, and you realize that you've made a difference in people's lives.
From the foundational areas like constitutional and corporate law to the emerging areas involving robots, gaming, or cryptocurrency, join us for Season 2 as these faculty members share how they are
taking care of business. Today's guest might be the leading authority on insurance in the state of Florida and beyond. His resume is so large, I'm really not sure where to start today, but we are honored to have with us Fred Karlinsky, co-chair of Greenberg Traurig's Insurance Regulatory and Transactions Practice Group, in addition to being an adjunct faculty member here at the FSU College of Law. Welcome to the show, Fred.
Thank you, Alva, for having me today.
We're so glad you're here. In fact, we're really honored you're here because currently the Florida legislature is in special session, all revolving all around insurance. So I think you just popped over from a block over, right here next to the FSU College of Law campus, sits the Capitol. So I'm sure there's a lot of interesting things going on over there, and we really appreciate you sharing some of that time with us today.
Well, happy to be here, and it is pretty interesting. And I think this is part of the topic we're going to talk about today, but the proximity of the Capitol to the law school really is attractive to anyone who's involved with politics or anything relating to Florida state government.
It's so interesting. I noticed on your resume your involvement in a lot of political activity, all the way Mitt Romney, McCain Palin, Pam Bondi, Rick Scott. You spent a lot of time involved in politics as well as insurance. So I want to touch on that a little bit later, but let's go back farther. So talk about your law school experience here at FSU College of Law and how you got involved in business law and insurance specifically.
Thanks. So I'm not sure I really had a plan to go into business. I actually wanted to be a trial lawyer, but I'm not sure I was that good at it. Although when I was in school and we did a trial competition, Phil Padovano, who was a judge at the time, I think he's since retired, told me he thought I did the best cross-exam he had ever seen. But I just really understand business, I think, and I started to do work in the insurance space, which, as you mentioned, I do a lot of work in, not only in Florida, not only on the political or the regulatory front, but the transactional front as well. And so I've enjoyed it. I understand it, almost like I'm in the insurance industry, if you will. And so I think I've just fostered that for the course of my career.
What was your first job out of law school?
My first job was with a small firm in Fort Lauderdale that was doing insurance work. And so through that, I got a base understanding of insurance, and then shortly thereafter, after I was there for a few years, I went to what was then the Florida Residential Property and Casualty Joint Underwriting Association, which was the precursor to Florida Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, and I was ultimately at that organization, their chief legal officer and assistant executive director, and through that, effectively, I was running one of the largest insurers in the United States, and I really learned all aspects of how an insurance company works.
Now, what was your first involvement with politics? And were you always interested, or was that a kind of you saw it as a benefit to your career?
I'm not sure I saw it as a benefit to my career. I think I saw it as a way to get involved and potentially make a difference. While I was an undergraduate at the University of Miami, I was involved in political types of things. I was on the Student Senate. I was on the Student Supreme Court. In addition, a number of my fraternity brothers ran for office at the University of Miami. They ran for student body president, and so I helped them with their elections. I chose never to run for that role or that seat because I was for several years the chair of our on-campus bar, the Rathskeller Advisory Board, and to me that was much more rewarding at the time than being student body president.
Absolutely. Be friends with those who do want to run. Don't run yourself.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
I like that. I think that's a smart move. But now, where you are in your career, do you see it as a benefit looking back? Because I would imagine you're called upon to provide information when it comes time for the legislature or the governor or other people in government and in politics when they need information that they can rely on regarding the insurance industry. I would imagine you're contacted on that.
I am, and it is a benefit generally. I think I've done some really neat things through the work I've done in the political arena. I've gotten to meet so many interesting people you see on TV. You understand the backstory, but I think a couple things. Number one, I think it's made a difference for the community, for our state, for our country. I think my involvement has helped in that regard. Secondly, my involvement helps our clients. I mean, our clients are, and no matter who you are, if you think about it, and we're talking about business now. So think about it. Government is one of your largest partners in anything you do. Taxes are a huge spend for any business. And so not understanding the political arena or not understanding your partners, to me, is a glaring, really a glaring omission if you're not doing that. And so understanding how politics works and how it's intertwined with your business, especially if you're dealing with any type of regulated business like insurance or utilities.
Okay. And then in addition to all that practicing and being involved in government and politics, you also teach here at the College of Law. So let me turn it over to Jeff and ask a little bit, since he's a teacher as well as you. Y'all can probably compare notes on guiding students on their path, on their legal path.
Well, it's really one of the most amazing courses, right? Because it's during our spring break week, and I'll let you describe it more, but I always thought, what students are going to want to take spring break and actually take another class? And of course, it's one of the most popular classes that we have throughout the year. So it's really a testament to your success, your teaching ability. And can you describe it a little bit? How is it? I think it's an unusual class. It's very different from your sort of typical first year, here's the cases. At least that's my sense of it.
No, it very much is. And so I'll step back for a second. When I was first asked by Dean Widener, when he was the dean, to teach a course, it was with a fellow who was here named Dino Falischetti, he is an economist. And so Dino and I co-taught the class on Tuesday nights during the spring semester. And my schedule is such that I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow, let alone 13 Tuesdays in a row. And so what Don asked me to do a while back was, he said, look, we want to experiment with a spring break class. Would you consider doing this during spring break? And it really sort of caught fire. So this year, well, let me step back for 1 second. We were actually the guinea pig for online and Zoom for the university, at least as it related to COVID, because the class is always in March and when spring break is. And in 2020, literally the university shut down on Friday in person, and Monday we were slated. And I was asked, what do you want to do on Thursday night? And we decided to go virtual. Frankly, it worked out really well. And the last 2 years, we've had a record number of students. I think in 21, we had about 80 students. This past year, 2022, we had about 110 students in the course. And so because of my schedule, because I never know what's going to happen, I said to Dean O'Connor, I said, look, this really needs to be Fred and Friends. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, it'd be boring to hear from one person from 9 to 12 and then 1:30 to 5 every day, 4 days in a row. So what I do effectively is I take part of the class. I take an intro and I moderate sort of the discussions that are going on, and I'm the thread that weaves it all together. But I have my friends who are going to be the speakers in that course every year, and they join us. So we've had the state chief financial officer, we've had the state insurance commissioner, we've had the insurance chairs in the House and the Senate, we've had reinsurers and risk modelers. We've had people from all over the world that, when the class was in person, came to Tallahassee, but in the last 3 years zoomed into the class. And I think the reason the students like it is because they understand that the people that they're seeing in front of them are practitioners. They deal, and they're subject matter experts, and they deal with these issues every single day of the week. And some of them have been in this business for 30, 40, 50 years. In the case of, say, Barry Gilway, who's now the CEO over at Citizens, he's come to speak to the class several times. And so I think having those people before them, they understand that through hard work and through becoming a subject matter expert, number one, you can, with a call or an email, get those types of people to come in and teach a course or spend an hour with those folks, with the students in the class. But secondly, they see something to aspire to. Not all the folks there are attorneys, clearly, but they've got a background that has shown and proven to create a successful business career. And I think in a lot of ways, whether you're in law or business, law is a business too, and so you are in business.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and that's my sense, is the students really appreciate, because I think, as you said, academically, we can teach a course, but it's very difficult for us that have been out of practice for such a long time to say, this is what it's like to practice in this area. And they don't always get that sense from a contracts course or a Tax 1 course like I teach. And to give them, I think they just, it's such a breath of fresh air for them to get a course where not only are they getting substantive knowledge, but as you said, they're also seeing what it's like to practice in that area, see the day-to-day. And that gives them a lot more information about it, whether it's something they want to do, right? It's very easy to say, oh, I like this area, but maybe I don't like the practice of it because I don't know from the class. They're getting that sense here of exactly what it is like, it seems to me, to be an insurance lawyer. Which, of course, I hate to say it, sounds dry probably to some people, but seeing you traveling all over the place and the connections you've had, my sense is it's actually kind of an exciting area to practice in.
Well, it's really exciting, but back to the course for 1 second. I would just submit to you that the students that take that course see where the rubber meets the road. We're dealing with real issues. So, for example, this past year, and Alva mentioned the special session that we're in right now, this past year we spent a lot of time, probably an inordinate amount of time in that course talking about what's wrong with the property insurance market. All the students are required to write a paper between 5 and 10 pages. I'd say better than half of them wrote on the property insurance market. So if they took that course 2 years ago and they pick up any headline or watch any news in the state, they're going to see something that we just discussed as a problem in that course. And I think that's pretty interesting for folks. So they really do, like I said, see where the rubber meets the road. As far as insurance being boring, I would say to you that, this is not an insurance defense course, and I don't deal with insurance defense matters. The last thing you want to do is see me in court. But at the end of the day, what I deal with is finance, and insurance is finance. You can call it risk transfer, but risk transfer is something that you didn't have the same amount of wealth you do. You didn't have the same value of properties. People weren't worth what they are way back when, like they are today en masse. And so when you look at insurance, some people will say it's risk transfer. To me, it's really risk finance, and that makes it a lot more interesting because there's just a lot of moving parts whenever you're dealing with something as complicated as risk finance.
So let me ask you one last question then with that, because that's a great point. And as you said, you got to understand business no matter what you're going into. I think sometimes students come in and think, oh, I don't need to do math. That's why I'm going to law school, right? And as you said, business, you may not like business, but business will like you. What would you tell a student, especially if you're going in insurance law, but maybe just generally business, the non-law side, what courses or information or would you recommend? Should they get to know finance? Should they get to know accounting? Are there courses that you look back and say, if I've got a 1L or not a 1L, a first-year associate coming into my firm, this is what I want to make sure they understand so that they can hit the ground running?
I think the answer is D, all the above. I think at the end of the day, the broader your knowledge base is, the better you're going to be. But I think also a couple things, and this is going to be at odds with that answer, but specializing in something. So having that broad knowledge base, but specifically specializing in one area. And I think one of the benefits of being in Tallahassee is the ability to go work for a state agency. That doesn't mean that's where you're going to wind up. That doesn't mean that that's going to be the practice area that you're going to focus on for your career. But if you get into a state agency, whether it's the legislature, which is not an agency, obviously it's a separate branch, or a gubernatorial agency, you will understand administrative law. You will understand the rulemaking process. You will understand, in part, the legislative and political process. And I think no matter what you do in your career, even if it's family law, at some point in time, those types of things are going to matter, and it's going to be very helpful for you to understand that. So I think, again, one of the benefits of the proximity of these buildings that the FSU Law School is comprised of is the proximity to the Capitol and to the state agencies that exist in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I was going to ask you, and I'm sure there's no one answer for this, is what's a day in the life like for you? One of the things we get asked from the students is more knowledge about what it's actually be like. What's it like once they get out there practicing law in X industry or Y industry? So I'm going to shift it a little bit because it sounds like your days are always different. So give me a great day in the life of Fred Karlinsky. What's a great day look like for you?
Well, great days don't always exist, but days when the phone's not ringing all day and the email's not blaring, that's a pretty great day. But that doesn't happen very often. So what I would say, I'll answer it this way. I mean, if you're in practice, whether it's trial practice or what I do in particular, I've got a wide swath of clients. So on any given day, I'm dealing with issues for 30 clients or 50 clients or 10 clients, whatever the case might be. But there is never a particular day, and no day ever goes as it's planned. No day ever starts. I mean, there are some days where I'll wake up and I'll say, this day is going to be totally one of the most difficult days, and it turns out it's easy, or relatively easy in my terms, because I start out, and this is one of the things I teach in the course too, and I'm not sure it's teaching as much as it might be lecturing. And by the way, the students usually do really like the class. If you ever read the reviews of the class, they usually like it. But normally there's one or two students that don't like this aspect of it, and this aspect is that I am, at the end of the day, giving them a subliminal message that the only way to get ahead, no matter what you think or what you do, is hard work. And so all I do all day, from the time I wake up in the morning till the time, and lately it's when my iPhone falls on me because I'm falling asleep, but is work hard. And so, the thread that binds all these days together is just trying to advance the ball. And every day you try to advance the ball for your clients, for yourself, for any causes that you're trying to advocate for. But there really is no particular day. I mean, the emails and the world we live in today, and this is different from when I started practicing in 1993. I graduated in December of 92, took the bar in February of 93 and started practicing shortly thereafter. But, today in the environment that we live in, things move a lot faster. You can get an email from someone on a Saturday at 4 o'clock, and if you haven't responded to them by 5:30 on Saturday with a complete answer, they're sending you an email with 3 question marks. And so, and you might think that's funny, but it's the way we live. And the problem is, if you're not used to that and you don't understand that, this is a tough road to hoe for you, especially in big law, where customer service is important. And even though I'm a specialist in a particular space, they'll clients will think they can go somewhere else. They won't get the same customer service. They won't get the same kind of answers, but you need to make sure that your customer service, your client service is second to none. And so all day long, all you're doing every day is you start out with a plan, and that plan changes. Usually, I sort of gauge days by how late in the day the plan changes. So if it changes at about 8:15 in the morning, that's a day that's going to be a challenge. If it changes like mid-afternoon, you can run the clock out on that day a lot easier.
Give me an example. What kind of things do your clients ask you for? Give me what.
It's really everything. It could be to analyze legislation. Okay. It could be to craft a contract. It could be strategic thinking in their business. It could be an introduction to someone. So the sky's the limit. It could be, hey, the CEO's son wants to go to X, Y, and Z school. Who do you know there? Or the CEO is trying to sell their house here, and there's a problem because of the city or the county. I mean, it really runs the gamut. So there is no typical request. There is no typical day. We do a lot of startup work for people, and so that's particularly interesting and satisfying because you could, for example, set up a new company from start to finish, and you have a chance to mold that company, not necessarily in your image, but in the image of the people that have hired you to do that. And so when you do that, and I think about some of the companies that we've started over the course of time, especially in the insurance arena, and you see some of these companies now, they're $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion revenue companies with 4, 5, 6, 7, 800 employees, and you realize that you've made a difference in people's life. So that sort of work is particularly satisfying. But there is no typical day. There is no typical client request. I mean, the old saying that if you can't adapt, you're going to become extinct like the dinosaurs really is true. And I think during COVID, that was particularly true. Our firm, as did many other firms, excelled during COVID. We, similar to the law school, that Friday, I think it was either March 12th or 13th, took everything down. Everything for our nearly 5,000 employees and 40-plus offices worldwide went remote. Interestingly enough, 2020 was our best year until 2021, which was our best year. And we're still somewhat remote. We're urging people to get back to the office. But it's tough, and you try to let people work at their own pace now. But it's also tough to argue with the fact that people did really well in 20 and 21, and 22 looks on track to be a great year as well.
You're bringing so many things to I want to keep asking questions. I think Big Law, explain to our listeners, maybe we have students that come in and they think they want Big Law, I want Big Law, or no, I want small, or they don't. Exactly. Yeah. So in your opinion, could you give us maybe a positive about going into Big Law, maybe even define Big Law for some of our people who aren't sure? Was there a definite cutoff, a number of a size of a firm that makes it Big Law? And what could be the downside?
Look, I think Big Law is, and I probably would never go back to a small firm. I don't think I'd ever leave Greenberg for that matter, but we've got about 2,500 lawyers. I would say I would look in today's environment at a firm, and there's probably a definition somewhere, but I'll give you mine, and it's probably wrong, but I'd say over 1,000 lawyers or so, because at that point in time, you can just about do anything, anywhere. So the benefit to me and to our practice is that if we're doing 6 different transactions at the same time, because I've been doing this so long, because we've worked with so many different people, I can run 6 different teams. And run may be the wrong word, work with 6 different teams. The regulatory piece of it may be the fulcrum to all of it, but there's 6 different corporate groups that are helping us, 6 different employee groups, employment groups, 6 different tax groups, and that would be impossible to do at a firm that's much smaller or smaller. The fact of the matter is that our firm in particular, we're very cohesive, so it makes it a lot easier. I'm fortunate also in that I'm located in Florida. My main office, the main office I work out of, is Fort Lauderdale, and we have a fantastic corporate group in Fort Lauderdale. And so there's nothing they can't do. And so we've done multiple deals at the same time, multiple multi-billion-dollar deals at the same time without missing a beat. And so I look at that and say, that's great. But, big law is considered a place where you've got to work hard, and that's not for everyone. And you've got to be of a mindset where you say, look, this is going to be my career, and I'm going to dedicate myself to that. Obviously, my family is going to come first and my friends, but there's going to be sacrifices. And if you're not willing to make those sacrifices, and the interesting thing is, Florida, a place like Florida, is probably a little bit more forgiving on those types of things, if you will, than other business centers. And Florida and Miami in particular is becoming, and maybe is already, a business center. But, New York and London and other places are considered even more hard driving. So I'm giving you, an aspect of my practice that is Florida centric in the way we operate, but probably is a little bit even more akin to a New York traditional mindset than even a Florida mindset.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, any last questions before I move into the...
No, I think that's been great. Yeah.
All right. A few last questions here. We've called it pop quiz. We've called it redirect. I don't know. Anyway, it's meant to be fun and light. So let's see what you got. So how do you take your coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
Oh, you're the second one we've had that doesn't drink coffee.
Well, look, I've got a lot of energy. People would be scared if I drank coffee. I mean, I go pretty hard the way it is. I'm not saying I stay away completely from caffeine. I do drink tea, not hot tea normally, usually, a nice tea. And I do drink Coke, which is not the greatest thing to drink. But I've just never, I don't think I've had 5 cups of coffee in my life.
That is funny. That's funny.
That's incredible. That's the most incredible thing you've said today.
I didn't see that on your resume anywhere. You need to add that. Non-coffee drinker.
People get really nervous if they think I'm going to have a cup of coffee. So.
Are you high strung? Are you do you stay up? How many hours a night do you sleep? Because from this resume, it looks like you sleep maybe 3.
Yeah, I sleep probably 4.
Are you serious?
Or 5, yes.
So you just answer. How many hours a day do you work?
I work a lot. Yeah, a lot. I work probably, if I'm up, I'm doing something. And you know what? I'm now in a position where if I go to bed, like last night, we've gone hard because of this special session. Mm-hmm. So last night I went to bed early for me. I was up in the middle of the night. I was up at the crack of dawn. I couldn't sleep any longer. So I think I've just been doing this so long this way. But let me make a suggestion to people. I'm not sure that that's the healthiest way to go. I mean, again, I've got a lot of energy. Yeah. I'm unique in that regard. But everything I've ever seen says you should get 7 hours at least of sleep. So that's going to be one of my goals moving forward, to get more sleep.
Okay, I like it. I can strike off the goal question. Nice. Get more sleep. All right. What's one...
Well, that's not a real goal. But it's a goal for purposes of this podcast.
So do you want me to ask you?
The real goal is complete world domination. I mean, at the end of the day, look, I've done well enough over the course of time where... if I stop today, it would be okay. But I always want to be the best in whatever I do.
This is an honest individual
and so,
here.
Yeah. So the bottom line is, I want to continue to do interesting things and to do interesting deals. And so that's the goal. And we're gonna every day. What I do is I strive to be better, and that may mean I'm hypercritical. If I'm hypercritical of the team, the ones that have worked with me for a long time, know the person I'm most hypercritical about is me, but I'm very transparent in that criticism, because I think a rising tide lifts all ships, and I think at the end of the day, the more we can do to be better, the better off it's going to be for our clients, and the better off it's going to be for us and our staff. And the smarter individuals that work in this industry understand that. And by the way, that what I'm saying here is not unique to me. I mean, it holds true anywhere. If you're a professor of law and you teach an extra course, or you write an extra paper, or you become a subject matter expert, that makes you a more impressive and more important law professor. Similar to the business community, those types of things put you in an enviable position. When's the last time you went on vacation, and where did you go? I mean, a real vacation. Well, so that, again, and this may be a news flash to some, but in the world we live in today, because of phones and emails, those don't exist. It would be more stressful to me to get home and to just have seen everything that could go wrong, having to deal with it then. And did go wrong, probably, if you didn't respond. Right. Yeah, so, I go on trips all the time with my family, but there's a balance. And fortunately, my wife and kids are great, and they've seen that balance, and we've reached equilibrium, and we're fine. I mean, if I'm, going to the Colosseum in Rome and I want to spend 2 hours looking at it, I'll spend 2 hours looking at it. Will I sneak a couple views into my phone? Yeah. Will I be ticked that the old Romans didn't put Wi-Fi in there? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, to me, in the world I live in, which is fast-paced, and someone else can have a completely different outlook, and to me, that's okay. But in the world I'm living in, which is a lot of clients in a heavily regulated industry that moves quickly, you've got to move quickly with it. And again, that doesn't mean you can't go out to dinner and put your phone down, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. You can absolutely do all of that, but you also need to be very responsive, and I think that's okay. It's so funny, so many of my questions, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. He's not going to answer this. Like, what movie could you, we ask everybody, what movie could you watch over and over again? I bet you don't sit down and watch movies. I can tell you a movie. So I was wrong. The only movie I really watch multiple times, and it's funny because I'm Jewish, but I have a Christmas tradition, and that tradition is I watch It's a Wonderful Life. I don't watch it on a DVD or on Netflix or any other way. I just watch it when it's on Thanksgiving. Jimmy Stewart with commercials. Yeah, Thanksgiving and Christmas time, because to me, it's a pretty powerful message. And if you think about it, all of us touch a lot of people in a day, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. But the bottom line is people do get changed by other people, and I think that's the moral of that story. I love that movie. Jeff, are you a fan? Okay, no. We were gonna have issues if you hadn't seen It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, please. I mean, if you want to talk about other movies, so I don't normally go to many movies. I don't really watch TV now. Right. I mean, I like, but I'll tell you, I only like two kinds of movies, either very scary, three probably, very scary, stupid funny, or some sort of action. So, Will Ferrell, Will Ferrell fan? Yeah, hilarious. Yeah. The Hangover, Love Old The School, Hangover. Silence of the Lambs. Those are the kind of movies that I can and often do quote all day. No Chianti after that movie. I was like, that's it. I will never no Chianti. Yeah. And there's so many disturbing things about Silence of the Lambs that I can remember it. It's not good. I don't want scary at all. I don't understand people who want to be scared to death and stay. Oh, that's you.
Because he never sleeps, so it doesn't matter. Yes. That's the thing with scary movies. It keeps you up. I look at those situations, and I want to make sure if I'm ever in them, I can figure out a way out of them. So don't split the group. Part of insurance, right? Making sure you understand those types of things. If you find yourselves in a well that somebody dug in their house 6 feet down, you would know how to get out. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. See, I'm telling you, that movie stayed with me. It was awful. Well, Fred, we so enjoyed. I could keep going because your answers are really interesting, and it was really nice to get to know you today and learn a little bit more about what you do, and hopefully our listeners glean some information out of this today. So we appreciate you being here. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for all you guys do for the law school, for the students, and for the alums as well. Thank you. Thank you. This podcast made possible by a generous donation from Jeff and Aggie Stoops. Special thanks to FSU College of Law's Professor Sean Barron for creating our theme music.